Hello everybody, welcome back to NXT Ups and Downs, and my goodness, what a difference a week makes. Because here, last week, we were all talking about, yes, we can't wait for this NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day event, so many great matches, so much cool drama that could go down, but we had no idea what was coming. And just when we thought we'd had enough time just to really assess what went down, the absolute chaotic drama that ended that show, this week's NXT came and just stirred the pot even more. But I'm not going to waste much more time because yes, there is an awful lot that we just need to get our teeth sunk into. So, I am Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, I am high on coffee, and we're going to up some downs for this week's NXT. Straight away, we had that Vengeance Day recap at the start of this show, and I've not really had a chance to really air my feelings on this incredible takeover event, so straight away we're going to give that a big old up. Because in my opinion, it was the finest takeover that we've had during this crazy kind of crowdless era that we're going through right now in the Capitol Wrestling Center. And I absolutely adored it. I love the Kushida versus Johnny Gargano match. That was just magnificent. Obviously, MSK versus the grizzled young veterans set the world alight. It was brilliant. Every match delivered, in my opinion, and that is exactly what I want from my takeovers. But on this week's NXT, we kick things off with Kyle O'Reilly very much being pissed off with what went down at the end of TakeOver. Because he stormed out here and he said, you know what, Adam Cole, I'm very angry at the fact you just kicked me in the face at the end of that show. You've ruined the Undisputed Era, you've ruined all of our dreams, but you know what, you're still my brother, and if you come out and have a conversation with me about it, I'm probably going to punch you in the face, but we'll deal with it. After this, he didn't get Adam Cole though, because instead, Roderick Strong came out and sort of justified what Adam Cole did. He was like, oh, yeah, I don't think he really meant to do what he did to you, man. I think he regrets it. It's just one of those things, brothers fight. But O'Reilly was having none of it. He snapped. He was like, no, just get out of my way. I'm going to punch you in the face if you come anywhere near this ring. Just go, don't touch me. Don't touch me. And it was absolutely clear that O'Reilly just didn't know who to trust. And just to add to the mix of chaos that was entering the arena at this time, Finn Balor came down to the ring and he was like, you know what? You don't trust anyone. I don't trust anyone. Nobody trusts anybody. This all led to just a big, massive brawl, obviously, because then Pete Dunne and the Kings of NXT, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, they came out absolutely battered, the three men that were squabbling between themselves, and perhaps this maybe does, maybe doesn't lead to a big old main event at the end of the show. But it was a good way to kick off NXT, so it's getting up. After this, William Regal provided us all with an update on exactly what was going down with Santos Escobar and Karrion Kross, the match that was scheduled to go down tonight. Guess what? It's not down. Because he played a message of Santos Escobar saying, ha, you know what, Karrion Kross, you're going to threaten me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my lucha ball and go home. After this, William Regal then said, well, we're going to have this match next week, and if you don't turn up, Santos Escobar, you're getting a suspension, and I'm going to strip your title, which is not a very good thing for Mr. Escobar, is it? He obviously did confirm that we were going to have that 6-man tag match in the main event too, but yeah, this was really underwhelming, because if you came into the show expecting to see Santos Escobar take on Karrion Kross, which in my mind was like the big reason to tune in this week, obviously, and the Undisputed Era fallout, you were very much underwhelmed. You felt cheated. I felt cheated. I don't like feeling cheated when I watch my wrestling, so yes, the down stays. After this, we did have The Way, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell taking on Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon once again, and the match itself, meh, it did what it did. It was fine. There was nothing exactly wrong with it, but because of all the shenanigans that overshadowed everything, it's got to get it down. Because Johnny Gargano came down to the ring straight away with The Way, and he had like some missing persons posters, which admittedly did make me laugh, did make me giggle a little bit, so we're going to bring up that Johnny Gargano meter, and I'm going to give it a 65%, because hear me out here. It was funny in its own right, because he had this little poster saying it was like a $500 award if you find Austin Theory, but it's also a very serious matter. We'd lost a man, so I can't laugh too much. I can just laugh a little bit. But like I said, this narrative just pretty much overshadowed everything that was going down in the ring, because Johnny Gargano was on commentary, said, have you seen Austin Theory? Have you seen Austin Theory? To everybody who was looking at him, presumably. And then this white van just arrived in the NXT car park, the most dangerous place in all of wrestling, and Johnny Gargano inevitably went out to go and scope out if Austin Theory was in the truck. Then, as the match progressed, Johnny Gargano did eventually come back into the arena. He had Austin Theory with a bag over his head and only chose to take like the bag off his head when he got in the arena, which must have been an absolute nightmare trying to negotiate him backstage. But this understandably distracted Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell and then led to the victory for Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart because they rolled Indy Hartwell up for the win. But instead of being devastated and brassed off that they lost the match, everybody celebrated. The people who lost celebrated because they'd found Austin Theory, and then the people who won the match celebrated because they just won a match. So it just felt like the entire thing was pointless. Nobody cared if they won, if they lost. They were just happy to have Austin Theory back. The whole thing just made me confused and made me wonder why the hell I just sat through a match in the first place. After this, we had Pat McAfee on a private jet because, you know, Pat McAfee, and he was just pretty much saying, yep, told you all along, Adam Cole is a douche. And he was his usual smarmy, organic self here, and just to advocate for more Pat McAfee, because in my opinion, we are not getting enough. He's going to get an up here. This tiny little segment's getting up, and we're going to move on. We then cut to a backstage segment of Kushida having a bit of a chat with Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed was like, oh, well, I really want the North American Championship, but you're really good. Saw the TakeOver match, big fan, but I'm probably going to have to beat you down the line if you want to get that North American Championship. And then Malcolm Bivens just popped up out of nowhere, and he was like, again, really love the match, huge fan, but you're going to be in a match tonight against somebody of my choosing. Surprise, surprise, it was Tyler Rust. After this, we had a match between Isaiah, Swerve Scott, and Leon Ruff, and you can probably guess these two are super talented. I love the dynamic of the entire thing. It's getting an up. This new character of Swerve just being an arrogant, entitled bit of a prick is really fun to watch, and he was really cocky through this match every time he evaded Leon Ruff. Don't know why that's evading, but we're going to go with it. It just unfolded to an absolute mess where Leon Ruff started getting the upper hand. Because nobody gets out of trouble quite like Leon Ruff, and when Isaiah Swerve Scott was using all of his pent-up aggression and just taking things a little bit too far, Ruff used this against him, because as he was being thrown up for like some kind of powerbomb-esque move, he rolled him into a crucifix pin for the upset victory. Swerve Scott then suckered him in for a handshake. He was like, oh, you're really good, and then just battered him yet again. And he was like, you know what? I'm sick of you getting loads of opportunities and I have to work my ass off for everything. It's my time now. I'm going to kick all the ass. And even though I love this character and I like where it's going, it's just giving him something interesting to go with now moving forward. He needs to start winning matches or else he's not going to get opportunities. I think that's how it works. But for now, it's getting a safe up just for the match itself. After this, we had a tag match which pitted Kaden Carter and Casey Catanzaro against the team of Jessica Meyer and Aaliyah. And if you remember last week, they didn't have the best of times because they confronted Xia Li and Tian Sha about the fact that Xia Li had just turned her back on them, even though from what I remember, they weren't really that close on screen anyway. It was all a bit odd. But determined to put all of this in the rearview mirror, they got into this match, they kicked all the ass, they provided us with another demonstration of their insanely good chemistry as a team. They like double kick Jessica Meyer in the face, and then their finisher now is something of beauty because it was like a combination of a neck breaker and a crossbody. It did the trick, it sealed the win, but throughout the match, Boa had arrived. He was stood at the edge of the ramp, shrouded in red light and smoke, and you just sensed trouble was coming. Because after the victory for Casey and Kaden, Xia Li turned up, and you could tell she was still a bit brassed off from last week, and she then walked straight up to Casey. She grabbed her hand, put 2 black smudges on it, which was absolutely terrifying, and she warned Casey that next week she's going to purge her. I'm very scared for Casey. Still not entirely sure what this means, where it's going, what a purging of Casey Catanzaro is going to consist of, but for the match itself and the fact that I'm just absolutely intrigued by what's going to go down next week, it's getting up. We then had the presentation of the Dusty Cups for both the men and the women's winners of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classics, obviously the finals that went down at Vengeance Day, and this entire mess of fun and joy is getting an up. Because first up, MSK made their way into the arena and they reminded me of just 2 kids that woke up on Christmas Day and they could not believe their luck that there were actual presents in the room for them. What did they do? I don't know, but they loved it. It was fun, it felt off the cuff, it felt like NXT were just letting the guys do whatever they want and just being true to themselves, which obviously we know resonates very well. They confirmed that they were cashing in on their Tag Team Championship opportunity against Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch on March the 3rd, which is 2 weeks away from now, and I was very much over the moon for them. I can't wait for that match. But then, not overstaying the welcome, they then got out of the way as Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez made their way down to the ring, but not before helping them in by like doing the whole rope opening thing. They're good lads. I love them. Great boys. But before Kai and Gonzalez could just wax lyrically about how incredible they were as a team throughout this tournament, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, your women's tag team championships, made their presence known. And this is probably the first time in quite some time these two have felt like actually a little bit of a big deal. They walked down to the ring, they were like, ha, these fools are going to challenge for our belts, we're going to destroy them. This then led to Dakota Kai introducing Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler to Gonzalez, because obviously she wasn't here the last time they were here on NXT and all the rest of it, and she was like, Nia Jax is really big, and Shayna Baszler's a bit of a coward because she legged it from NXT after losing to Rhea Ripley. Oh, you know that person that you beat in the last women's standing match? Shots fired. This then led to Shayna Baszler reminding Kai that she did in fact break her arm once upon a time, and then Gonzalez just had the absolute killer blow at the end of all of this. Because after the two teams confirmed that yes, they would be having their Tag Team Championship match in 2 weeks' time as well, Raquel Gonzalez said she's gonna stick her boot so far up Nia Jax's hole, she ain't ever gonna get it out. If it's not clear by now, WWE are not going to be letting this whole thing go anytime soon. We then had a really brief Cameron Grimes video, again, very similar to the thing that happened at TakeOver when it was just his really funny, just great, mad song. That should be his theme song now going forward, is To The Moon. It's just great stuff. But then at the very end of this, he crashed his Lamborghini, and then he was like, oh well, I'll just get another. Get another? We then had a way of kind of furthering the NXT Women's Championship scene because we had Io Shirai backstage. There was pictures of her having a really cool photo shoot after defending her championship successfully. And then there was something really weird happened because Toni Storm invaded the photo shoot, but then the photographer took pictures as it was happening. So instead of trying to like get involved and trying to just break up the absolute fuss, this photographer was like, nope, got a job to do. I must capture every moment, and it'll probably get used on NXT at some point. We admire your professionalism as it rewarded us with this very strange but quite compelling segment. After this, we then did have that Kushida versus Tyler Rust match, and you guessed it, it's getting up. Because Kushida was obviously not at 100%, Tyler Rust knew this, and he targeted that elbow. He just kicked it, punched it, grappled it, twisted it. Sounded like I'm playing Bop It. He did a lot of stuff to it. Honestly, there was a moment here when he just absolutely nailed Kushida on the back of the head with an axe kick, and I didn't know what to do. I felt like I'd been kicked in the head. My head like bounced off the screen that I was watching NXT on, and I just didn't know what to do with myself. But this was not enough to keep Kushida down, because after long he did lock in that hoverboard lock, that big horrible thing that he does to people's arms after kicking it and very nearly breaking it like he potentially kind of did but sort of didn't to Johnny Gargano. But before Tyler Rust could tap out or give up, Malcolm Bivens got on the side of the apron. He was like, no, I'm calling the match, don't do it, don't kill him. So Kushida technically won the match, but Tyler Rust technically didn't give up. So this was just a very intelligent way of ending this match. It just proves that Malcolm Bivens does not want to ruin his investment in Tyler Rust. He wants to create this diamond in the rust, and it makes Kushida just look like the badass that he is. Even at like 80%, he had enough to beat Tyler Rust. Swiftly after this, we did have a reminder that LA King is now a thing in NXT. They showed his Vengeance Day arrival, that little promo that he did on the pre-show, and then we had a bit of a trip to his house, which didn't exactly end well for the cameraman because he knocked on the door and LA King was like, what are you doing here? Go away. But then before he could, he was like, right, okay, we'll have a bit of a chat because I'm going to absolutely dominate NXT. It's my place, it belongs to me, and anybody who's got a problem with that, they're going to get beaten up by me. And you know what? I think Wade Barrett summed it up best, because this guy is a megastar just waiting to happen. Keep giving him the mic and just let him go on a bit of a tear. And after this, we did have the singles debut of Zoe Stark, so you know what that means. Yes, welcome back to the Squash Zone. We have our big old singles debut here from Zoe Starks. And was this squash, was this battle, this dominant battle from Zoe Starks, a juicy squash or a rotten one? It was a little bit close, but I think we're just about juicy. Mwah. Because her opponent, Valentina Feroz, did get a little bit of offense in. It was looking like it was going to be a bit more even than any of us would have expected. But my goodness, Zoe Stark kicked into gear and just like unleashed the rage. She absolutely pulverized Feroz with like a half Nelson release suplex followed by a knee to the face that Daniel Bryan would have been proud of. But the icing on top of this badass cake was undoubtedly the moment she unleashed this like modified GTS tilt-a-whirl thing and absolutely destroyed Feroz for the win. So because it made her look like a force of nature, it made me want to see her again, and it didn't really affect the person who was being squashed because we didn't really know much about her anyway. It's all juicy, not quite rotten. We like it. We then had a typically grungy, dark, and just absolutely terrifying promo from Karrion Kross and Scarlett, who reminded Santos Escobar that they cannot push the pause button on this nightmare. Karrion Kross then gave him an option. He had option A, he could turn up and actually have the match that was supposed to go down this week, or Santos Escobar could choose option B, which is don't turn up, lose his belt, and still get absolutely eaten alive by Karrion Kross. I've got to say, don't like either option, and I don't think Santos Escobar will either. We then did have our main event, which was Pete Dunne, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch taking on the disgruntled team of Finn Balor, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. And you probably guessed it, it's gonna get an up, but it's not just getting any old up because of just the match itself and everything that goes down at the end of it. Yellow highlighter. My head. Ow. Because you had Kyle O'Reilly just not wanting to tag in Roderick Strong at any point in the match. He was like, I don't trust you. You've hurt me. You've all hurt me. Don't touch me. Finn, you come in. And this strategy didn't exactly work out for a long spell because the Kings of NXT were a bit more on the same wavelength. They isolated Kyle O'Reilly until the moment he hot tagged Finn Balor and things hit the fan. Because just when Finn Balor picked up a head of steam and it was looking like it was going to come down to him and Dunne, Danny Burch introduced the NXT Championship, 2 proceedings, and then this led to the referee getting in a bit of a dodgy situation, getting drop kicked after Finn Balor drop kicked Pete Dunne into the ref. There was a lot going on. And this obviously opened the door for a few shenanigans because Adam Cole then suddenly appeared. He finally appeared on the scene. He threw Finn Balor across the ring, who smashed into the referee again. And then after this, he kicked Kyle O'Reilly and suplexed him onto steel steps. You're a bad man, Adam Cole. And just in the confusion of everything, Finn Balor then Pele kicked Roderick Strong, thinking it was Adam Cole. This led to Pete Dunne bitter ending Finn Balor for the win. And everybody was just left there going, what is happening? What's going on in this show? And as the bad guys just skulked away, they were very happy with themselves. Adam Cole came back into the ring, super kicked Finn Balor, and then picked up the NXT Championship, and you could just sense he was doing all this madness. He was ruining everybody's lives just to hold on to this belt. So yeah, this opens the door for so many different things going forward. You could have an NXT Championship triple threat with Dunne, Balor, and Cole. You could have Cole and O'Reilly, obviously that big grudge match. There's so much potential here. So in my mind, it was a fantastic way to keep you intrigued and keep you wanting to come back for next week's NXT. And obviously, just as a bit of a side note, on social media it was revealed that Kyle O'Reilly had apparently suffered a seizure after the match, and everyone was like, oh my god, I hope he's okay. This is heartbreaking. We don't want anything bad to happen to Kyle. But this is apparently just part of a storyline. He is actually okay. Kyle O'Reilly is just incredible at his job. So that has been this week's NXT Ups and Downs. Let me know what you think of this show in the comments section below. I personally absolutely loved it. I think as a follow-up to Vengeance Day, it did everything it needed to do. It started planting more seeds for more matches going forward, more great storylines. Obviously, there were a few things that I wasn't exactly happy with, but let me know what you thought of it in the comments section below. Follow myself on Twitter at gmorgan04. Follow everybody here at What Culture Wrestling at What Culture WWE. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe to all things What Culture Wrestling. And most importantly, more than all this, more than my yellow jumper, more than the yellow highlighter, more than this orange I have right here, just go and have fun. Go and have the best week possible. Watch some wrestling. I will see you next week. Thank you very much.